Oh my god. Thinking about this again is making me so mad. Good afternoon. Welcome to this video. Welcome to my channel. We are going to be reading one of the most anticipated books on my TBR, The Arsonist City by hala alyan. I decided to make an entire reading vlog for this book just because I want to read it with intention. I've been trying to do that with a lot more of my books. You're so stinky. Let me show you my cat. I'm sorry. You will have to see my cat. Okay, anyways, I am going to have many spoilers in this video, so if you are anticipating reading it in the future and you don't want to be spoiled, and when I say spoiled, I say it very liberally because for me, spoilers usually in my head is just like anything about the book. Obviously there's like major plot twists in other books that are like way more spoilery, but sorry, I got distracted by a thing I got, a text I got. Anyway, I was like, what the heck? Anyway, yeah, so gonna be reading this book. I'm really excited about it / like devastated already because I've heard that it's a really like heartbreaking novel, but it's one of my most anticipated reads. And like I said, I've been trying to be more intentional with the books I read. I'm actually in the middle of reading The Bloody Chamber, and I've been like highlighting. I haven't read too much of it, but like I've literally, even the few pages that I've started reading, I've been highlighting and underlining and trying to like respond to it. So because of that, I'm actually going to be starting this a little bit like earlier and just reading it very slowly. So this vlog is probably going to be going on, like it's going to cover, why is it so hard for me to explain? This vlog is probably going to be over the course of several weeks. I'm not going to speed through this. I generally try not to speed through my books, but sometimes there are books that I just naturally will read faster or slower. But this time with this one, I really want to take my time. I'm thinking the way I'm going to go about it is check in at every like 10, 20, 30%. But we'll also see, because sometimes I get like, I don't know how closely I'm responding to a book until like I'm recording and I'm like, okay, actually I'm gonna sit down and like this part I'm gonna just talk about what happened versus like this part I'm gonna actually record myself and react in the moment to what I'm reading. So I'm gonna just kind of play it by ear, but right now I'm thinking I'll just go at it in the like by doing checkpoints and check-ins and stuff, and then maybe I'll pause and like react in the moment, but we'll see. I'm happy that I'm finally getting around to reading this because it's been something that I've been wanting to read for several years now because my friend recommended this to me a while ago, and then I got my hands on a physical copy earlier this year, and now I think I'm ready to like just start reading it. Okay, so I just changed into my house clothes because I got home a little while ago and I was working in my outside clothes, but it's like 6 p.m. I want to wear house clothes. So I'm going to grab a bookmark for the book and I'm gonna sit down and start reading, and we shall see how much I get done. I realized after I looked at the book, I'm not reading on my Kindle, so I actually don't know what percentages I'm gonna be at, but I'll reference pages and just like, you know, I'll play it by ear and see like at what points I want to stop and like react. With a reading update. I am on page 52 out of 4:43. So I'm giving an update here because I'm on, I think, the second chapter. There's a prologue called The Wrong Ghosts, and this is like way before, I think, the point in time where the novel is set and it actually starts. So it's about Zakaria, who is killed by a group of men, and I think it's because he was involved in like the murder of another man who was like related to one of those men. You don't get too many details about like the situation, beyond the fact that like they come after him, they take him out, they kill him, and that's it. There's mention of like a bunch of different characters, specifically Idris and Mazna. And then in the first chapter, so like at part 1, we are following Ava, who is Mazna and Idris's daughter, one of their children. And Zakaria was, I think, in love with Mazna, but like I don't know too many of the details right now. And then so the first chapter is following Ava's perspective, so it's her POV. It's third person, but like it's following her, and we get like information about her basically. So she's married to this white man, his name is Nate, and he comes from like an old money kind of not religious, old money kind of rich family. We're just kind of seeing the fact that she is just kind of in domestic life. They have 2 children. They have Rayan and I think Zina. And yeah, it's definitely not Zina. It's Zina. But they have 2 kids, and she's kind of like, it seems like she's kind of sick of her life, but also finds comfort in it. She's having kind of marital problems with Nate because he like cheated on her, but like not exactly. Like she found an email with like illicit pictures of some other woman, but based off of the information that I got, I couldn't tell if like exactly how solicited they were. It's interesting because it's showing how complex relationships are, and so basically explains how like Ava gave him shit for it, but she ultimately is trying to forgive him, but she hasn't really been able to, and she still has that fear of like he's going to cheat on her. He's going to cheat on her even more than he already has. And then among all this is the fact that Mazna, her mom, calls her and is like, your dad's trying to sell their house in Beirut, and like, can you come so we can convince him not to sell the house, basically. So Ava has 2 siblings. There's Mimi, whose name is Marwan, but everybody calls him Mimi. And then there's Naj, who lives in Beirut. Mimi is in Austin. And then I think their parents are also in Austin. And I think Ava is in New York, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's in New York. So we really get like a lot of backstory on, let me put my thing in just because I'm gonna lose my spot, but we get backstory on Ava. And then the next chapter, almost rock star, is Mimi's perspective. So Mimi is kind of like a struggling artist, but he's getting older and he's really struggling, like actually in terms of feeling like he's ever going to make it. And we're getting some information about Nej as well. So apparently Nej is like successful in her music career, and I guess she also has a band. Mimi is in a relationship with a white girl named Harper, and Harper is also like super successful. She's kind of like a music agent, and she keeps trying to offer to help Mimi, but he keeps refusing that because he doesn't feel like good about the fact that like he's struggling to do what he wants to do, which is like music, and she's really successful in like what she's doing. Mimi's also helping out with a restaurant. I think the restaurant's called Olive, if I'm not mistaken. And his parents, his mom continues to like financially help him and give him money when he asks. His dad, and I think kind of his mom too, try to tell everyone that he owns a restaurant, even though I don't think he does. And basically they are like, it's kind of a setup. What I think super fascinating reading Arsonist City right now, is that Enter Ghost also starts with a character going back to her country. In that scenario, it was going back to Palestine. In this scenario, they're going back to Lebanon. Kind of where we're at right now. I think hala alyan's writing, she's a poet, I think, originally, but her prose is so rich. Like, I love the way that it's done, and I really love like what's it called, dialogue heavy novels. And I don't think that this is particularly dialogue heavy, because if you see, like, there's not really much dialogue, but the dialogue itself is so rich that it feels dialogue heavy. Like, it feels like there's so much emphasis on the dialogue. And I want to point out this like one specific part that I really enjoyed. I just read it today, and she does relationships so well and in such an interesting way. Like, they're so dynamic and complicated, because even in Mimi's relationship, like Mimi, there's this like tension between him and this girl. What's her name? Alyan. Okay, I was right. So yeah, there's this like sexual tension between, or like flirting between him and Ali, and obviously, like, he's not cheating on Harper, but it's so fascinating because, like, apparently him and his relationship with Harper has gone so long that it feels like less exciting, because it's like a long-term relationship. And she's trying to portray how like they dance around different topics, because they never like discussed marriage or kids or anything like that. And there's this one part where Mimi is telling him about like her friends, because she has like poker night with them every so often, and then it's described in the book that how like Harper leaves those situations or those poker nights with a little bit of, like, there's always tension between them afterwards, because there's a lot unsaid, and Harper seems like more and more unhappy every time she sees that like her friends are basically advancing in their lives, like in some way. Specifically, they're getting married, they're having children, they're whatever, getting their schools into pre-K or whatever. And so at this one's part, she's like talking about how one of her, one of her friends is pregnant. And then so let me read this to you. It says, Sumi's pregnant. No way, that's great. Mimi can hear the falseness in his voice. I should give Jason a call, say congrats. You should. They've been trying for a year. Is she happy? Mimi can tell from Harp's slight flinch that this is the wrong question. What do you mean? Is she happy she's having the baby that she's been wanting for months? Harper's eyebrows furrow. Of course she is. Do you want a baby? He could ask, should ask. It's the unasked question of the past few years, and like a spider plant left in sunlight, it's growing more unruly the longer it is unasked. And so is the corollary question from Harper. Do you not want a baby? Right, he says instead. That's great. I really like how she's demonstrating like this relationship, and she does a good job with like Ava and Nate as well. It's just so fascinating to see like their dynamic relationships. There's also a part in Ava's perspective where like they go to like, I think it's a work party or something for Nate, and someone there makes this like comment about like, oh, they only have pork, bacon, whatever, and Ava like takes two pieces in front of them, basically to be like, oh, they have veggies too. She says like, oh, they have veggies too, and then she takes two of the bacon pieces, but she ends up going and taking it to Nate. And I thought it was just so funny, because it's like demonstrating this feeling of like people trying to be amiable and act like they know everything or whatever, or make assumptions about you as like a Middle Easterner, even though you might not even necessarily be like Muslim. And it was just such a fun like moment, because she kind of just like does that out of stubbornness, but she doesn't end up eating it herself anyway. So yeah, it's really fascinating so far. I think the first, like right now at this stage, I am most fascinated by the way that she's writing relationships, specifically Ava and Nate and Mimi and Harper, but also like their relationships with the people around them, and by extension Mazna and Idris's relationship as well, because we're only really seeing Mazna and Idris from the kids' point of view right now, like basically them calling and the kids thinking about their parents or the conversation on the phone. But I think it's done so well that like I feel like I know these people already. So yeah, that's my update for now. Really, really good so far. It's honestly just incredible. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I heard actually that Salt Houses is easier to read than this one, unless I'm remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure, because Salt Houses came out first. So I feel like after I read this, I really want to read that one. And then one of my friends messaged me and said that she wants to read Halalian's memoir. So we're gonna hopefully buddy read that at some point. Also, while we're on the topic, since Alyan's a Palestinian writer, I also want to talk about, this is like a little intermission, and I know it's a tangent, but I just read One Day Everyone Will Have Been Against This, and it is such a good book. I highly recommend. It's written from like a journalistic perspective, but I really love just the way the author discusses, you know, politics, journalism, the Middle Eastern experience, and all of that. He does such a really brilliant job. Definitely a book that I want. It's on my wish list to buy a physical copy of. Definitely a future reread as well. So just wanted to talk about that too. Really loving this so far, and I'm excited to keep reading. It's actually, I haven't read for, just in general, not just this, I just hadn't read for like a while, but this is so engaging that I think I read like 40 pages just today. So I'm gonna hopefully see how much further I can get tonight and just continue updating you guys. I would love it if I could finish it by like the end of this weekend, but I've also been like highlighting so much. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can see I've been highlighting so much that like I'm not gonna rush it. Like I'm just going to take it slowly and like digest and think about it. So anyways, that's where we're at right now. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, so a little bit of an update. A lot of time has passed since the last time I updated. I'm on page 236. I don't know exactly what page I was on the last time I updated, but I think it was like pretty far back because I'm over halfway through the book, and the last thing I remember updating you guys about was Mimi, so their brother, Mazna and Idris's son. So that whole time they're thinking about going to Lebanon, and Mazna specifically is asking her daughter and her children in general to please go with her, and the dad, because the dad wants to sell his dad's house. After Mimi's perspective, after Mimi's chapter, we get Naj. Naj is my favorite sibling so far. She lives in Beirut. She's an artist. She's super successful at the very exact same thing that Mimi wanted to be successful at. So they're like a band. They're doing really well. They're selling out shows. And she is based in Beirut. She travels around for like tours and whatnot, but that's where she lives. She basically gets a call. She runs into this girl, Fee. What was her full name? I don't remember, but her nickname is Fee, who is her ex that is now married to this guy, Bilal. Okay, that's what's going on so far. And like, one thing I will say is that so far in this book, pretty much everybody is cheating, which I don't know how I feel about that, because like, yeah, people cheat, but like everyone. We end with like Nej's chapter. She gets a call from, I think, her dad or her sister. One of her family members from America calls and says, hey, we're probably going to be coming over there to Beirut, so just a heads up. And she's like upset about it. She's like, why? 1 second, my food is, I think, overflowing. Okay, yeah, so Nej gets a call from her family abroad, and they're basically like, hey, some of us are coming. At that point in time, they hadn't all agreed to visit, like go to Beirut together, because at first it was just going to be Mazna Idris, and then Mazna Idris and Ava and the kids, and then Mimi ended up deciding to join. Okay, sorry, I had to run and save my food, but it's fine now. And then we get to part 2. So far, I'm at part 3 now, but so far part 2 has been my favorite part. We go back in time, back to Zakaria's time, back to Idris's time, and back to Mazna's time, and we follow Mazna the whole time, and we hear about how she met Idris and how she met Zakaria. It was also the like most heartbreaking part, the most heartbreaking section, because we find out that Mazna, who like we start out by seeing her mostly as an older woman, because like we're starting with her kids, we're hearing about her like married life with this Idris. We only get like whispers of her in the very first chapter, at which point we don't know exactly who she is, we don't know what she's doing, where she is, like we don't really know anything about her. besides the fact that Zakaria loved her. In part 2, we find out that Mazna met Idris and one of their friends, which one was it? Tariq? We see her as a young girl getting to know Idris because of her friends, and then she starts visiting Beirut because she's originally from Damascus. She's originally from Syria. And she goes, and then she ends up meeting Zakaria, who is the Palestinian son of the housekeeper of Idris's family. So Idris's family has a housekeeper. Zakaria is the housekeeper's son, but also he and his mom are basically like family to them. And when Mazna meets Zakaria, she falls in love with him. This whole time she knows that Idris kind of has feelings for her, but she doesn't really reciprocate that, and she keeps trying to hint to him like we're friends, even though we're hanging out a lot. And Idris just either doesn't pick up on that or doesn't want to. I feel like he kind of doesn't want to, and it made me really dislike him, because what was weird was, as a father, when he's interacting with his kids, I really liked his character and just like what he's doing and how he comes across. But in the chapters with Mazna, like in their youth, I actually really started to dislike him, because I felt like he was so pushy and insistent, even though Mazna's trying to signal to him like, I don't like you that way. And so we're kind of like reading at some point Zakaria and Mazna like actually like confess that they're in love with each other. They admit their feelings to each other, but Idris obviously doesn't know, hasn't heard of it yet. And they're like kind of hiding it from him. Then Mazna goes back to Damascus, and she doesn't hear from Idris for like a little while. He calls, he says, let's hang out this weekend. She says, okay. He doesn't invite her to come back to Beirut. He's like, we'll just hang out in the city. He doesn't show. The next weekend he calls, they hang out, and then a couple days later Mazna sees in the newspaper that her father's reading that there's been like an attack on the camps, and Zakaria's mom, I think his family lives in the camps, but he was living with Idris at Idris's house, so she doesn't entirely expect him to come to harm, but like that kind of piques her attention. So she grabs the newspaper and she sees his picture as one of the people who was killed, and she basically faints and she passes out, and she literally like doesn't get out of bed for 20 something days, and she's literally like so full of grief. Her part ends with her basically agreeing to marry Idris just because like she doesn't really know what else to do with her life. She's so entrenched in grief that like she doesn't really care what she's gonna do with her life. And I actually bookmarked the exact spot where Zakaria dies, because I did that dog-eared it, because that is exactly the moment that the very first part, not the very first part, the prologue, The Wrong Ghosts, that's when this happens in the timeline. So this novel's doing something very interesting with time that I personally like, where it starts in the past, moves to the present, in pretty much the middle of the book, returns to the past, contextualizes, and then now literally as soon as that part ends and she's agreed to go back to move to America with Idris, get married to him, move to America, we get to part 3, which is everybody, the whole family arriving in Lebanon. And what's so fascinating, also super heartbreaking, is that because of the context that we just received, Mazna keeps acting weird while she's in the house. And also, I didn't say this, but in the house is where she met Zakaria, where she was sneaking around with him and talking to him, and kind of like where she was staying. Older Mazna acts very like strange to her kids. Mainly Ava's the one who picks it up, and now we as the reader know why she's acting this way, what is like bothering her so much, what's triggering her so much. But obviously the kids don't know. And there's a part where the kids are looking through like a photo album, and it's so heartbreaking because like Ava pauses at this one like man's picture and she's like, who is this? Like, we've never heard of them. They mention Uncle Tariq, which is one of their friends, but they don't know the name of Zakaria. So like neither of their parents has told them about this one friend of theirs that was like that died. That's kind of where we're at now. The other thing that's interesting that would be a like relevant update from last time I talked was Mimi and Harper are engaged, which is really odd because Mimi cheated on Harper. He literally like made out with alyan. They almost slept together, but it was like stopped because someone like spotted them, and he canceled all his shows and his gigs, and he got engaged to Harper, which is such a shitty move on his part. That's the thing I'm saying, is everybody's cheating on everybody in this book. Okay, I think, and I hate to say this now because like now she's pregnant, but I've been thinking for a while now that Ava might be Zakaria's child and not Idris's child. And yeah, what if? We'll see. Yep, it's Zakaria's kid. I think Ava's the oldest, unless it's Mimi, but I think it's Ava. I can't remember anymore, but I guess I was right. And I want to set the record straight and say that I called it. I literally just turned on the camera and put on the first scarf I could find that was lying around because so much has happened. Mesna goes and secretly, not secretly necessarily, but she doesn't tell Idris that they're in, okay, let me backtrack because I think I'm jumping around a lot. Mesna marries Idris. They move to America. They're in Blythe, which is like a couple hours outside of LA. And she's really like, she's depressed, she's struggling. She finds out she's pregnant pretty early on. She waits to tell Idris that she's pregnant. Before any of this happened, I literally was like, what if Ava is low-key Zakaria's child? Because they obviously had sex like before she and Idris did, and like there's always that possibility. So that was correct. While they're in America, throughout the years, we're back in Mesna's POV, by the way, but we're following, I'm so mad right now. I'm so stressed out right now. We're following Mesna in America, and she is doing auditions. Like, she doesn't tell Idris that she's doing auditions, but she does this because she's like, I don't want to let go of my dream. I'm so mad. If I'm right about this, this whole time I've been hating Idris so much. Like, I hate him so much. I actually hate him hard, HATE, okay? He literally just like pressured her, he manipulated her. I think he's in part responsible for Zakaria's death. Like, I just hate him so much, okay? So throughout this time that she's doing the auditions, she ends up getting this one role, a casting call for one role, and she goes and she auditions for it. And the director, whose name is Sam, tells her right then and there that she's like, perfect, stay near the phone. I'm going to, like, basically, I think I'm wearing this inside out. Yeah, I am. Whatever. Basically, pretty much guarantees the role to her, okay? So she's waiting. She finds out she's pregnant in the interim, and because she wants to pursue her dream, she goes without telling Idris and has an abortion, okay? But she hasn't told Idris that yet. So he knows she's pregnant. He doesn't know that she's the baby, she's not pregnant anymore. One day she's coming home with Mimi. Mimi's like a baby right now. He's like 4 or 5 years old. And Idris basically tells her, you got a phone call. He's really angry at first. Like he's like stern with her or whatever. And he's like, you didn't tell me that you were auditioning. And she's like, please tell me what happened, whatever. And Idris is like, he said that you did well, but they decided to go with someone else. Oh my God. I immediately was like, no, there's no way. She got the role. I was like, he must have, like, he sabotaged her, didn't he? But I was like, okay, I'm gonna like forget about that, whatever. I'm gonna put that on the back burner. But there's a part of me that's like, he sabotaged her. That is literally what kills her dream. So she stops auditioning after that point. She just completely is like, you know what, I give up. She has Najla. Time passes again. It's a couple years later. And she's at the grocery store. And the director, this is where I stopped to record. She runs into the director. Oh my God. Like, I literally want to curse. I'm so angry. I hate Idris. So I'm just gonna like record myself while I read and like live react, because I literally, as soon as they ran into each other, I was like, something's gonna happen. The lore is gonna drop. Like he's actually gonna be like, oh, so we were so sorry you couldn't do it. Let's read together. I'm actually furious. I don't think you understand how furious I am. I'm angry. Like I feel a lot of emotions when I read. The number one being like sadness, but this is the first time in a while where I feel like genuine anger in react to what I'm reading. Either I like it and it's laughing, or I'm crying. I'm angry right now. Let me read it to you. Let me just read it to you. The director's like, oh, so are you back? Are you back for sure? Are you back for good? Okay. And are you back for good? He asks casually. It's funny. I still remember it was Damascus because I called for you the same week that one of my producers returned from Baghdad. He'd gone to Damascus for a few days while he was there, brought back the most delicious sweets. It's like her veins have filled with ice water. A terrible thought comes to her, but she can't look at it directly. The blood rushing in her ears makes it hard to hear. Mama's mad, she can hear Najla whisper, but her daughter feels miles away. There's a weird buzzing and Mazna swats her hair as though to clear it. Say that again, please. Her voice is hoarse. She wishes she had water in her bag. She always forgets to hydrate. What you just said about Damascus. He looks at her hard. About you returning, he asks, his voice puzzled now. The man who answered the phone. He told me you'd gone there and that you weren't coming back. Okay, I'm about to cry now because I'm so angry. Oh my God. Idris is the devil. He is the devil. I hate him. I hate him. Let me highlight that part real quick because I need to remember how much I hate that man. Bro, I felt bad about her cheating on him and all that shit, but honestly, she knew something we didn't. She knew, without a doubt, that Idris is literally the worst person in the whole entire world. Hello. Let me turn off the music. I'm here with a final Arsonist City update. I did finish the book. I was sobbing by the end of it. I think the last like 50 pages, I was completely just in tears. And it was so funny because I was in tears. I stopped. I went and like did something, and then I sat down, and like a couple pages later I was crying again, and I was like, okay, that's just the experience that we're having. This whole video has been very spoiler heavy. I've been literally talking through the plot. I'm gonna get even more specific in this part, so if you really don't want to know like the ending basically, please don't watch or like read it and then come back to later. So the last update that I gave was last sit down update that I gave was basically saying I think I started part 3, which was when the kids everybody was in Beirut, including Harper. The kids, especially Ava, keep noticing that Mezna is being a little bit weird sometimes. A lot happens throughout the entire novel. Like, I can't tell you everything because it is a pretty big book. It's so full, like just so much happens. But a couple of like points that I want to tell you guys about. So that part that I like stopped and I just recorded and I was like, I hate Idris. Bro, when I read that, I literally was like, I want Idris to die. I'm not even joking. I was like, bro, if Idris dies, fine. Like, I hate him so much. I'm thinking about it again. It's so crazy because by the end of the novel I softened towards him a little bit. I was just like, okay, well, whatever, I still hate you, but like a little less. But thinking about this again is making me so mad. I can't believe he did that. I cannot believe he did that. And then later on, towards the end of the novel, he and Mezna end up like, she doesn't talk to him for like 7 months or something like that, which good on her. She should have divorced him, honestly. But at a certain point, they end up talking about it, and he tells her, oh, I knew it would be like, basically he was like, I did that because I didn't want you to do the difficult thing of having to turn down a role because you were pregnant. And like, it's a bullshit excuse anyway. But then we go into Idris's perspective, and it turns out he didn't even think about the pregnancy until afterwards. He literally just he literally just sabotaged her, and he says it too. He's like, oh, I fell in love with the girl on the theater, like whatever. But he was basically worried that if she ended up being successful, she would like leave him. I'm angry again. I'm literally angry again. Oh my God. Literally, I hate him. Like, oh my God. Unexcusable. So anyway, Ava finds out that she has a Palestinian father, that Zakaria is her dad. She finds this out because she goes and scoops and whatever. Sara, who is Idris's sister, ends up like spilling the beans. Basically what ended up happening, and the reason that Zakaria went back to the camps and ended up dying, is because Sara told Idris that she'd seen Mezna and Zakaria kissing. She ends up telling Ava this because Ava like keeps questioning, and she ends up reaching the conclusion, like she figures it out. But by the end of the novel, what's interesting is you also find out that Idris put 2 and 2 together, that Ava wasn't his kid very early on because Ava has dimples. He remembered from genetics class or whatever that kids can only have dimples if at least one of the parents have dimples. And Mezna doesn't have dimples, but Zakaria did. That's kind of where it ends, and it actually ends on Idris's perspective, which I guess I kind of didn't really like that because I hate him so bad that I was just like, ugh, whatever. And the fact that he never brought anything up to Mezna kind of made me feel a little bit like I hated him a little bit less, but still, like, I honestly, that doesn't forgive him sabotaging her career. Ava never brings it up to Idris. Like, she almost has this like moment where she's like about to tell him or like ask him, but she doesn't. But she tells her siblings, so her siblings know. And yeah, it's kind of like there's this moment towards the end where Harper actually is the one who's like, let people have their secrets, basically, something along those lines. I really love this novel. I'm actually surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I think that it does so much well. I will say that I kind of wish it was a little more tightened a little bit, like the plot was a little bit less. I actually don't know, because I feel like it does a really good job of just painting the entire picture, and it needs to because there's so many characters involved. But I do think that there were some things that could have been cut out that were kind of unnecessary. It could have been a little bit shorter and like more concise. Mesna's perspective when she was young especially was my favorite part. Like Mesna's whole trajectory was so beautiful and like heartbreaking, because by the end she gives up on her, like that's what was so I think what messed me up so much was Mesna's whole like arc as a character, because she has this dream and she's good at it and she doesn't get to do it because so much goes wrong. And it's just like, she was such a sympathetic character to me. Like I loved her more than anyone else, and I felt for her more than anyone else. And by the end of the novel, like I think what was the most heartbreaking thing in this whole entire story was that she was the most wronged. Like, and she did a lot of wrong things too throughout her life or whatever, but it felt like, I don't know, it just felt, I don't know, that whole thing of her being so good at acting in theater and all of it getting just, I don't know, it was so good. It was so good. And she was my favorite character, and I don't think I'll ever forget her as a character because she tried so hard, and you just see that, like you see her trying so hard to have the life that she wants, but she just can't get it because things just keep going wrong, and she gets so swallowed by her grief that she doesn't know what else to do. Thinking back on the parts with her in her youth when she keeps going to Beirut, like Idris keeps taking her there, and the fact that she's like surrounded by these two men specifically, it just felt like, I don't know, that's another reason why I fucking hated Idris, because like he was so possessive of her. Like I blame him for everything going wrong in her life. Bro, low-key, I blame him for everything going wrong in her life, and I hate him, and he's unforgivable. Ugh, I hate men. Anyway, he got his little story. He got what he wanted. And like Mesna finds joy and stuff in her kids, but like whatever. Anyway, that was Arsonist City. My heart is broken, and I don't ever want to read this again because it was so depressing. Like, I think if I ever read any of it again, it's just going to be Mesna's spot, like part 2. Because, like, there's something, like, even when I was younger, reading books with, like, my downfall in reading anything is two lovers that cannot be together. Like, that destroys me. Even when I was younger, like I think that's why when I was younger and I read Little Women, I was obsessed with Joe and Teddy, because I viewed it as like, oh no, they can't be together. Like, what I mean is, if like something, like if the universe stops them from being together, like that destroys me. That literally ruins me. And this is what happened like with Zakaria and Mesna, like because all I can think about is what her life might have been. And she talks about it with Zakaria. They literally talk about it, and she's like, she imagines it, and she's like, I'm gonna go to London, we're gonna go to London together, you can apply for asylum, blah blah blah. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry again. I'm not joking, if I think about it again, I'm gonna cry. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, because that was my journey with this book. I love this book so much, but it broke my heart in a way that like I'm carrying a sense of sadness since I finished it. Like I'm on the verge of tears. I do recommend it, especially if you want a sad book, but like it also has so much commentary on like the politics of the Middle Eastern countries and what was going on, the different wars and how that affected people. I think she does a really good job of like showcasing the effects of war on like this many people. And how it reverberates down to like Ava. It's not just like oh, Zechariah dies and then it ends with him. Even that whole thing of like, against all odds, Ava existing and like Zechariah living through her is just a whole thing that like, okay. Anyway, I love this. I recommend this. Thank you for watching my vlog. I hope you found it interesting. And I hope that even if you watched it and you hadn't read the book, you are inspired to read it, because I do think that knowing all that, it's still worth reading it and just meeting these characters. Alyan is an incredible writer. The prose is so poetic and beautiful. There are so many things that I highlighted. Like literally I just flipped to one. It says, it's strange to think of her future self watching these images. It's like she's part of a plot against herself. Oh my God. And that's so crazy, because later on, when her and the kids go back to Beirut, the kids find the VHS tape and see their younger mother, and they see Zechariah, and Ava's like, who's that? I swear to God, I'm going to start crying. Oh my God, I also love this part. This is after Zechariah dies, literally the part that I dog-eared. The nights bleed into each other. She steals every clock in the house. She fills the bathtub with water and drowns them all. I'm literally gonna start crying, actually. Like, my body's getting overheated and I'm stressing out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you found this vlog interesting and it just inspires you to pick this up. I'll talk to you guys later. See you in another video very soon. Goodbye.